Welcome to Whistleblowers in partnership with Wix Trade Pro.
Have you been asked, or is there any coverage through the Daily Mail that you'd be keen to cover? I think you would if Balotelli was playing, because he's a story regardless of what he does.
I was in an editorial meeting on yesterday, Tuesday, when Balotelli's appearance in the Ball League came up, because he was such a hypnotic figure. Balotelli, wasn't he? Doing that for some. I'm not sure I can remember a player who actually contributed so little to the Premier League, about whom so much was talked about. I was covering Manchester City at the time, and the one great mystery to people at Manchester City was that was this: the only person who really believed in Balotelli, apart from Balotelli, was Roberto Mancini, the Manchester City manager, who was convinced that Balotelli was the next Pele, essentially. And other coaches who I knew at Manchester City at the time used to say to me, even we don't see it. Roberto's the only one who sees it. Yeah. And ultimately, of course, that played out. You know, he had his moments, didn't he? He had the goal in the 6-1, the Why Always Me T-shirt.
That was me. I had to caution him for that.
Yeah, he
because he pulled it.
But apart from that, on the field, he really contributed very little. Although he did. And this doesn't get mentioned very often. It was his little toe poke pass that set up Aguero. Yeah. So that was you could.
There was a few things. Yeah, there was a few things he did.
His only ever Premier League assist.
Was it? Know that.
His only ever Premier League assist.
Well, there you go.
That's right.
But he actually caught that same game, 6-1. He scored with his T-shirt.
Yeah.
I cautioned him, and then he got Johnny Evans sent off just after half time as well, with his movement, and got pulled down. So. That was probably one of his better games of the year.
He was a childlike figure, Balotelli. Yeah. Manchester City put so many people around Balotelli. They put so many resources into Balotelli off the field to try and. They used to organise, like, seriously, you're laughing.
I remember because I wrote about it.
Like clay pigeon days out, go-karting, paintballing, and enroll kind of youth team players to go with him. Anything to give this kind of man-child something to do when he wasn't at training. And when he was training, he used to do this thing that he couldn't cope with making a mistake. So Balotelli would take a corner in training, and it wouldn't be a good corner. It wouldn't beat the first man, and he'd fall over, holding his leg, just to say, "Oh, I'm injured. That's why that didn't work." Mentally and emotionally, utterly unsuited to life as a professional footballer. Utterly unsuited to life as a professional footballer. I think the
club should have learned him how to park his car, because the fines that used to come in to the club each month, because he used to just park his car anywhere he wanted.
San Carlo, didn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that was the last year I worked as a reporter on the paper. So I was showbiz editor at the Sun 2012, and Balotelli, every day I got a story about him. And it's one of those things, and you probably had this as well, the amount of times the club or people would say that story's bollocks, but then years later you'd find out the story wasn't just true, but there was another chapter to it as well. And he was, I remember I had one story about him getting pulled over in Manchester by the cops, and he was driving his car bare feet with a set of boxing gloves and a pile of cash. I think it was a lot. It was like 20 grand in cash. And like, where are you going with that? And he went, I'm going to help out some of the homeless lads in Manchester, and just started giving cash out. And then I had the other one about a wee boy outside the training ground looking for an autograph, and he'd stopped and said, why are you not at school? And the mum said, he's being bullied, so I'm trying to cheer him up by meeting the players. He went, what school did you go to? Got in the car and he took him to the school. And at the time, everyone said, that's not true, that's not true, that's not true. About 8 years later, the teacher was like, yeah, he did do that.
Yeah.
And I loved that. And the other one was, I remember they were trying to kit out his flat, and he'd been given somehow with his mum permission to order anything from John Lewis he liked, and the club officials had gone there to help him move in, and all he'd ordered was a trampoline, tennis table, nothing for the flat other than
a leaf blower from Wix.
Yeah, he got a new kitchen called the Ladyman kitchen.
It was sad, but you know what? He was a really unhappy lad, as all of this kind of plays to. Really, he was very young. He was probably 20 when he came to Manchester City. I think he was desperately young and desperately unhappy. I tell you what, City couldn't have done more for him. And then Liverpool bought him. Yeah. What was that all about? Liverpool bought him, and I know that City at the time tried to. I think City played Liverpool in a cup final, a League Cup final, or something around that time. And someone at City tried to do Liverpool a little favour by saying, "Oh, is this the kind of at boardroom level?" Oh, I wouldn't. the Balotelli thing, I really wouldn't go there.
Right, yeah.
But Liverpool had this view of like, oh no, we're Liverpool. We'll make this work.
Yeah.
It was Brendan, was it? Brendan Rodgers. We'll make this work.
Never worked.
I'll tell you what I'll do on Thursday. I'll have a T-shirt. Why always me? And
Did I say Noel Gallagher owns that now? That's quite a good little fact as well, isn't it?
A T-shirt?
Yeah, he owns that. He's got that T-shirt off Balotelli. There you go. That's what I love about having you here, Mark, is that, you did that 6-1 game, didn't you? The United derby, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And Fergie, I think he wanted to murder. That's the angriest, I think. I mean, think how many times he's been angry, but I think that's the angriest he might have ever been.
Yeah, very angry that day. only because it was 3-1.
Was it 3 in extra time?
Could have been 4.
Yeah.
It was 3-1 and he wants to be off. You could tell the team were beaten and he wants them off. I think he wanted 1 minute. He shouts at us. And I thought, nah, let's have a bit of fun and we'll do a bit of Fergie time. So we played, I think it was 6.
Yeah.
And it went 4-1, 5-1, 6-1. It should have been 7-1. Jago should have scored, I think.
Yeah.
And he just goes down the touchline and he's waiting for us in the tunnel. If you do that again, son, you'll end your career. I never went back to Man United for 8 months.
8 months. 8 months.
Are you actually telling me that you added on more time than you probably should have done?
I couldn't comment.
Just to have a bit of fun.
No. I'd added the time on because I knew the stadium was emptying and it meant I could leave the stadium quicker.
And your Porsche with clats on it. Not to 60 in about 2 seconds. Right then, time for a guest. We are joined today by a man who played 77 times for England, participated in 3 World Cups, and is the subject of one of football's most iconic photographs. Mr. Terry Butcher, welcome to Whistleblowers.
Thank you very much.
We need to deal with the elephant in the room, because I will promise you I won't mention Diego Maradona's brilliant header against England in '86 if you can just say sorry to the Hibs fans right now for that little run of luck.
Oh yeah, that was doomed for that one right from the start. But yeah, I mean, I love the club. I thought it was great potential, but
yeah. Sometimes
when you move, I mean, you look at Amorim and Manchester United. The same things that you were doing at your previous club just weren't working, and we had a difficult time, put it that way.
We mentioned at the top there about that iconic picture, and there are some brilliant photographs in football over the years, but yours is an absolute cracker. And Ian actually has a little story, don't you, about that particular picture?
Yeah, so Terry, I've been around this business for quite a while now. I've been a football writer for 30 years, but back in the day when I counted myself just as a run-of-the-mill football fan in my teens and early 20s, I had the photograph of you, bloodied but unbowed, from that game playing for England in Sweden. I had that photograph. It was just torn from a magazine. Don't know which magazine, why I chose to tear it out. But when I was a student and I was living in different houses, and then I went to become a journalist in Stoke-on-Trent and Nottingham, and then down to London, that photo went everywhere with me in my late teens, early 20s. It was on my wall. I don't know why. As a football fan, there was just something about it that absolutely captured my imagination.
Well, that's really spooky, to be honest, and really sad. Because you've done that, really sad. You should get out more, to be honest. No. A lot of people say to me they've got that picture as well, but they've got a family and they put it above the fire to stop the kids from going on the fire. And then a number of people that ring me up and say, "Look, this is me," and show a picture of me, show a picture of them with the bloodied headband and the red sort of top. And they say they go to fancy dress parties and at Halloween in October. So I get flooded with those pictures, but. Yeah, I mean, it is iconic, and it is that it's nice to be remembered for something like that. But it's just I just look at it as well. It's just any Englishman, worth his salt would have done that and would have carried on and played. Because I was the captain, and it was a World Cup qualifier, so you want to stay on the pitch. But yeah, it was interesting. And the saddest thing is, I didn't have image rights in those days. That was a real bugger, because I would be worth an absolute fortune now if I had image rights. But no, I'm not. Yeah, it's just one of those things. But I've seen lots of incidents where there's been blood and all this sort of thing.
One other thing, 1987, one of my fondest childhood memories, which probably says a lot about where I grew up, was that Old Firm derby. When I think, like Frank McAvenny was involved, you were involved, Graham Roberts, there was all sorts of shenanigans going on, red cards, 2-goal comeback. I mean, when you look back on that, football doesn't seem to have that level of drama, does it?
No, it certainly doesn't. I've not seen anything like that since, and it was it was a long drawn out process. We were in court the next year, and we got me and Chris Woods were found guilty of breach of the peace, and the other two got off.
What exactly happened? You got a £250 fine after the game for a breach of the peace, I think, wasn't it? But during the game, Chris Woods got in bother for sort of conducting the Rangers fans, but it did turn into a scrap on the pitch.
No, Chris Woods caught the ball, and McAvenny, I think it was from a corner or a free kick, caught the ball, and McAvenny went up to him to stop him from throwing the ball out quickly, and he sort of rattled his chops, rattled his face. And Chris Woods didn't like that very much. And Chris Woods was the son of a farmer, and he had big muscles, and he was going to hit him, but he couldn't hit him. But he grabbed him by the throat, and obviously Frank couldn't move. So then he pushes him to the side, and then I come in and give him a gentle push, and he went about 30 yards, and then Graham Roberts came in and I think delivered the punch, and then McAvenny got up and he was promptly sent off. Chris Woods was sent off, and I got a yellow card. I did kick the door at Vittoria. I'm very, very proud of that. It was the referee's door, but the referee wasn't there at the time, so I probably got away with it. But I was charged. I was charged after the game when we played. I was charged after that game as well, so I'm pretty much used to that.
So I want to know, what did the referee do for you to kick his door in?
Well, I was just angry. That was the first thing I saw when I came in the tunnel, was the referee's room at Vittoria, and I thought, that'll do. I'll just take my temper out on that, because that was the game that Ian Durant had. Was it Neil Simpson went in for the tackle, and Ian Durant's knee, and his cruciate and everything else went on that. So I was just angry for the wee man, for Ian.
Can we roll back a wee bit, Terry, just for a second? Because I wanted to ask Mark how you react when a player like Terry Butcher kicks the door off the hinges, or when you're refereeing a game where 3 players are getting red cards and the police are getting involved for public affray. How do you handle something like that?
The size of Terry Butcher, if he kicked my door and I would just open it and let him in.
The referee wasn't in the door at the same time.
But there's one thing Terry, there's one game I always wanted a referee and we couldn't. Was the Old Firm game, and I think when you watch it over the years, it wasn't a game of football, was it? It wasn't. I didn't see much football being played. It was, it must have been difficult for the referees in Scotland to be able to handle an Old Firm game, especially the way it was played out.
Oh yeah, I mean, we had the top referees refereed that game, all the time, sort of thing. But you couldn't put a fledgling in, could you? You couldn't put a younger one in that hasn't really done many games, because that would be too much. But it's intense. It's noise. It's just noisy all the time. You can't talk to people 5 yards away from you, because the wall of noise is just there for 90 minutes plus. So and they're the enemy. They're the main enemy of your job, whether you play for Celtic or whether you play for Rangers. You got to beat them. Not necessarily, you could win the league, but you still got to beat, your rivals. So I think it's enjoyable if you win, and it's actually the end of the world if you lose. And in between, if you draw, you don't know what to do. So it's incredible. You look forward to it. But there's a lot that goes on in the Old Firm games that used to be, sort of off camera, off many cameras. And things like that used to happen, which was norm for that sort of way of playing. Nowadays, you can't do anything, so it's a little bit more sterile.
It's an absolute pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much for your time today. We'll let you get off to check in with your parole officer from 1987. I know you've got to do that every week.
Can I just ask Mark, when in the referees and Arde, well before you, the things that really got me going was they used to obviously I committed a foul sort of thing, so they'd come and then they wanted to caution me, so they would call me over, and they always used to ask my name. I mean, I'm just thinking, well, do you know who the hell I am? Why do you ask my name? So in today's football, do the referees ask for the name or just flash the card?
No, that never happens now. You flash a card and put a number down. It's a numbers game, but it's interesting because I remember asking a player when I first started, what's your name? And he said, Mickey Mouse. So I stopped asking them the names. I thought, I'm not asking anymore. And we just used to just look at the number, put the number in, and if you got the same number again, because you knew the players. We used to call, and I don't know what it was like in your day, Terry, but when I was refereeing in the Premier League, I called them by the names because I felt we're all in it together. They called me Mark. Therefore, I call them by their
They
first
never
name.
called you Mark once.
Yeah.
Come on.
I can't repeat what they used to say to us.
Terry, were you ever tempted to try and give a false name?
What, 6'4"? You must be joking. I mean, everybody knows how I am.
Mr. Butcher, Mr. Butcher.
Yeah, I would have. Yeah, no. But the other thing as well was when you commit the foul and the referee calls you over, he says, "Come on, on this," to caution you. I would never go to the referee. I would never go. I'd make it a point of principle of just standing there. So then the referee eventually came to me, and I thought, it's small things. It's small things.
No, but
things
yeah, but that's reverse psychology. Because if a player did that, I'm thinking next time you're not getting that second chance.
Yes. Yeah, I did.
Terry Butcher, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Right, let's talk to Nick Kyrgios, the showman, the talent, the headline maker, the maverick. He lights up tennis, raw ability, fiery outbursts, plenty of moments of genius and lots of controversy. He's a proper pundit. I've got to know him really well the last 10 days or so. Good morning, Nick Kyrgios. How are you doing?
Hey, Gordon, how are you?
Yeah, good, mate.
Can't get enough of each other at this point. Amazing.
I've seen more of you than my family.
Do you want me to book a restaurant for tonight? Just me and you, candlelight dinner.
Yeah, I'll bring Emma Raducanu along as well, Nick. Who are you bringing? Right.
Whistleblower, eh?
Well, speaking of whistleblowers, Nick, I've been really looking forward to this because Mark Clattenburg here, right, is the most infamous British referee. I mean, a proper Marmite character. And I can tell he's itching to speak to you, right? Because he loves his tennis, right? And I know that he's seen you play. But Mark, how would you like to umpire a maverick like Nick Kyrgios?
Well, where would I start? I wouldn't want to umpire. I think is that why umpires sit above, so you can't get at them? Is that so you can't get really face to face with them, nose to nose like a footballer can?
Well, look, I feel like you and I could have some serious arguments and go at each other. Where the tennis umpires, they got no wit. Like they're not quick witted. They can't speak. They don't know trash talk. So that's why they're up there, because they wouldn't last a second on the ground.
Yeah. And sometimes I remember saying things to footballers and they react in different ways. And I remember Adam Lallana, for example, when I said, "You've changed since you played for England," and he went to the newspapers. I love the banter where it stays in-house. Yeah. But like you say, umpires seem to be quite rigid. But on a serious note, Nick, sometimes, your antics, the way you are to players, your opponents, ball boys, umpires, what does that send to the younger generation, the younger players who want to play tennis?
Look, yeah, sometimes I look back on some of the things that I've done and, in the heat of the moment, and you can't always be proud of it. But at the same time, like tennis is more so under the microscope than other sports. You're on your own. The microphones are right there. It's more under the magnifying glass than other sports. And I was speaking yesterday to McSauce, and he said the same thing. It's like when he has a run-in with the umpire, it's not like more than half the conversations he has, no one will ever know what they're about. Where I have a conversation with a ball kid, an umpire, every single conversation is under the microscope. People on the television can hear it. So it's more so, I think the tradition of the sport, I guess I just wasn't made for tennis at the end of the day. And, look, I think I've been getting better with it with age, realizing that I am a role model to a lot of kids out there that want to play the sport. But again, it's passion. It doesn't come from a bad place. It just comes from that competitive spirit. But yeah, I think I needed to manage those things better earlier in my career. But again, I was a 19, 20-year-old kid on a global stage where, maybe I wasn't ready to take on that responsibility. But I think I'm a bit better with it now. It's
interesting, Nick, that you say that. I was reading Andre Agassi's autobiography recently. I'd heard him on the Roddick podcast, and it made me dig out his book, which I've reread. And one of the things that comes through from Agassi's autobiography is just how mentally demanding life as a professional tennis player is, on the road, on your own, apart from your coach and your fitness coach, etc. Only you on the court, as you say. You've been drilled to do it since you were a kid. Do you think people underestimate how difficult that is to take all that psychological stuff onto the court with you?
Well, I think the interesting thing about tennis is as well that, if you look at every other professional sport, pretty much apart from golf, we're paying for everything. We're paying for our whole team, our coaches, our whole team, our hotels, our travel. And and we're away from, for me personally, being an Australian tennis player and being, I love being around my family. I'm traveling for 7-8 months a year, away, alone, different time zones, different diet. There's no routine. Tennis players, I guess, we have to be very adaptable, and that's why I think Novak Djokovic has got to be one of the greatest athletes in any sport, because there's no routine. Like, he's in 2 months, he's traveling to Asia, to Europe, to the United States, to Australia. He's like, there's what other sport in the world touches that many places, in a short amount of time. And yeah, you literally experience a loss nearly every week. You just got to get back on the horse and continue to get back out there. So tennis is an interesting one. I think it's definitely very under the radar of hardest sports in the world, for sure.
Nick, I thought you might want to ask Mark Clattenburg here while you've got him about electronic AI technology, because this guy here has to defend VAR, right? But what about tennis? Because it's driving you mad, Nick, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's been an absolute shit show at Wimbledon. I mean, Wimbledon's our, arguably our Champions League. So it's like, it's the best tournament we have in the world. And, pretty much every match now, it's like, there was a malfunction. We turned it off for a couple points. And it's like, well, maybe Wimbledon should just be one of the tournaments where it's just traditions never change. You have line umpires, you have challenges. And, I just don't think that it's worth having the argument over. I mean, look, I always want the sport to evolve, but I mean, what do you think? Like, this is it's our biggest sport in the world, and we're still having malfunction. So
yeah, it's interesting. Football, it's evolved over, when VAR was brought in, it wasn't just brought into the Premier League and dropped in.
Yes.
It was over a period of time, I think 3-4 years, mini tournaments, youth tournament. What I find interesting is that it seems in Wimbledon they've gone, probably listen to the players. Everybody wants technology. Yep. Everybody wants to take the human element out, because even the line judges, I went to watch a game at centre court once, and I couldn't even see the ball, even back there, because the way the pace. And I'm thinking, how do they actually see? I don't understand why they didn't have the line judge for this year. The line judges with a backup of the technology to check its accuracy. And if the accuracy was 100%, then next year they could say, look, the accuracy was so good, let's move forward, but let's have the line judge. But I'm just a traditionalist
like an extra blanket, I completely agree. That's a great idea.
But also, even just watching it, I found it strange, because I was always used to looking at the line judges, how well they're dressed. It was traditional. That was Wimbledon.
Exactly. And also, what about like John McEnroe, guys like me? Like, we had some of the best content ever coming from run-ins with the line umpires. Like, you cannot be serious. Like, we're still playing that 50 years down the track. So yeah, I mean, I completely agree. They probably should have eased into it. Like, I felt like Wimbledon just dropped it in this year, and it's been a disaster, to be honest.
Yeah, Nick, I was telling the boys earlier that you're quite pally with Emmanuel Adebayor.
Yeah, I mean, I responded to that video he sent me yesterday, Gordon, he responded back. He's sending me more as we speak.
Right, we won't tell you too much about that content. But
that's the first time I've seen you blush.
I know. It's been great having a proper window into elite athletes, right? Nick, just so you know, that day IanLadyman sat here, was reporting on the game where he was booked for running that full length of the pitch, but the man who booked him was Mark Clattenburg here in that game.
that is the best thing ever. That's got to be one of the best celebrations of all time.
Yeah, you know what? It goes back, and if you look back at the video, you wouldn't have had that goal if it wasn't for my such a wonderful advantage that I played on the wing, and he heads it in.
Yeah.
All I could think in my head was, and then he runs the full length of the pitch, and I'm thinking, oh my God.
Did you have to book him?
Probably not, but then it was like the game, with the chairs getting thrown on the pitch. He could have avoided that. If he'd stayed within that area and celebrated, I probably would have let him. But I can, what? In the heat of the moment, and you look back at it now, I would have done the same, run the full length of the pitch, because the abuse that he was taking. Yeah. But probably I was a bit of a Wimbledon umpire here, and probably bang to the letter,
But also, it's actually cool that you booked him, because it kind of makes it feel like it was an excessive celebration as well. It's actually good that you booked him, now that I think about it.
Yeah, but just remind him of the wonderful advantage I did play.
I'll tell him right now. I'll tell him now.
Nick, I wondered this the other day actually about whether you think you would have won more trophies if there was a hostile environment in tennis. So say it was a more working class sport, right? And you could get on the back of players and shout a little bit more and it was a bit more lively. I think you'd have thrived in those circumstances. Am I right?
Yeah, definitely. I think, as soon as I came on the scene, I instantly felt that, even just talking towards your opponent was not welcome. So I kind of incorporated some tennis. I don't know, just being around it, I was very quiet, and then I kind of let it out towards the middle stages and later stages of my career, and that's when I started having more success. But yeah, I feel like just some of these tennis players, I mean, look, like Stefanos Tsitsipas saying that I bullied him on the court at Wimbledon. Like, how do you get bullied in a non-contact sport? And I'm literally like meters away from you the whole time. So I feel like, if it was a bit more of a hostile environment, I think probably I would have had a probably better career and probably won bigger titles because, I played basketball growing up and, that's, we don't hold back in that regard. So
I also think that I am lucky enough to have been to the Australian Open in Melbourne. I haven't been to New York, but what struck me about Melbourne was how the atmosphere is different to Wimbledon, how you're allowed to, it's not quite as stuffy. You allow, you can move around a bit more. You can talk. You don't get all that kind of quiet please. Or do we take all that too far at Wimbledon, or is that an essential part of the Wimbledon tradition?
Yeah, I think Wimbledon is it's the pinnacle of tennis. So I think not every tournament needs to be like that, but I kind of enjoy the peace and quiet a little bit at Wimbledon sometimes from the crowd. But as you said, like Aussies just love a drink, and it gets so rowdy on some of those courts. And like they really they start speaking and trash talking the other player, and it does get a bit rough. And I enjoy it. It's like that's home court advantage, like that's how it should be. I feel like when one of your countrymen's playing. But yeah, I think tennis is just, I mean, yesterday I'm just sitting watching like the BBC, and I'm just like, man, like, this sport's not inviting to people.
Yeah.
And it's a tough sport, honestly. Like I've really been made to feel uncomfortable throughout my entire career, and they do make you feel like if you're not one of them, then you're an alien almost. So, it's an interesting one.
How do you funk it up then? How do you funk tennis up? How do you make it more appealing?
I mean, look, you look at the youth and no one really, like, when's the last time you went to a group of kids and they're like, oh, I really want to play tennis and I really want to, make it as a tennis player. It's like you rarely see that. And you see all these other sports like padel and pickle and all these other racket sports growing, and tennis is kind of falling behind a little bit. So it's an interesting one. I'm not too sure. I guess there's just they haven't really embraced personalities, I think, in tennis well at all. They've kind of pushed them and cornered them, put them in a corner rather than, get them out there and show like, look, if you're a different personality, you can find a way in this sport, and it's a home here as well where it's the opposite.
Rory, of all the things that you've chucked out into the internet with Spence and TalkSport and all these other places you've worked, what's the one clip that's had the most views?
That's the one.
Is that the one?
Yeah, no, do you know what somebody told me? I don't know if this is true or not, but somebody told me at Sky Sports, which is a terrible indictment on the world, that clip for Sky Sports has been viewed more than any other clip, including, do you know what second on the list was?
Jamie Carragher touching Thierry Henry's knee.
No, worse. Like for the societal reflection here.
Oh, sorry. Aguero?
Wayne Rooney's bicycle kick. Oh. So more people have watched that nonsense that I was spouting on. Isn't that terrible?
It's an exact summary of where we are with the media.
Yeah, exactly. No,
Rory Jennings on Erling Haaland.
Yeah.
How do you think Haaland will do this season?
I don't think. I don't rate him as highly as everyone else. He won't. He will not win the Golden Boot. Is that
goal machine?
He will not win the Golden Boot.
Give us a number.
He'll hit 18, but he won't win the Golden Boot.
Oof.
Isak at Liverpool will win the Golden Boot.
Isak at Liverpool will
win the Golden
Boot. Not Gyökeres at Arsenal.
No, it'd be interesting to see how he does.
Yeah,
interesting.
Didn't work for him at Swansea. Didn't work for him at Brighton.
No, although we've seen examples of that. Sometimes players they get opportunities, they drop down and they come back.
De Bruyne at Chelsea.
De Bruyne went away. Salah went away. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there've been a few over the years.
Yeah. Did you say Isak at Newcastle for the Golden Boot?
Sadly, I didn't, Mark. Sorry.
All right.
Oh dear. Right. We've got loads of questions to get through here. So. And a few listeners' questions as well, and we will finish our Wicks table today. But we've got our all-time 11s to take care of as well. But we've got this first question to pull in here from Susan from North London. She says, Manchester, the Old Firm, Edinburgh, we all know the classic derbies in football. no mention of Liverpool there. But nowadays it feels like the magic of Derby days disappearing. Rory, you're a Chelsea fan. What is your real West London derby? What's the one that or is the London derby?
Our derby's Tottenham. Our biggest game of the season would be Tottenham. Tottenham away is the fixture that you look out for, the fixture that you're scrambling for tickets for.
Right.
That would be the one that we're most up for. But I think Susan here has made a really interesting point. I think it's a broader point about the sanitisation of football. Like, it isn't as spiteful as it should be, in my opinion. I think that there is. It's not a fashionable thing to say. People don't like this, but I think that there is a place for venom in football.
Is that a reflection of how the game's changed to watch? Like, you don't see John Terry thundering through a striker anymore, do you?
No, you don't. And again, I think that something has happened, hasn't it, to football stadiums over the past 15 years where it's really calmed and the prices have gone through the roof and it's priced out some of the most tribal, which some would say is beneficial for certain reasons. Others would say has created a situation where we have such a dilution of passion in the stadium now. Like, there are times at Chelsea where it's not a dissimilar audience to who'd be in the Royal Opera House in Covent Garden. Like, it's quiet, and it's not what it should be. What football should represent, isn't that?
I find that with London football, actually. It's just a different place to watch.
It's a fashion accessory for a lot of people.
But for Mark Clattenburg, how much are you looking forward to Newcastle Sunderland this season? Because that'll be fun, won't it? It'll be filthy.
No, it's not. Not as a Newcastle fan. It's because even when we played them in the FA Cup, there's always that worry. You know, when Newcastle were, top half of the Premier League and Sunderland were in the Championship, it's always a recipe for disaster. That the bragging rights. If Sunderland beat Newcastle, it's going to be horrific. And Sunderland had that spell where every time they replaced the manager just before Derby Day, they won.
Yeah, Di Canio, wasn't it?
Yeah, Di Canio, Big Sam,
Yeah.
and it was Dick Advocat. There was another one. There was 3 or 4 coaches came in and they won. And I think they did, was it 6 off the bouncers, and it was just ridiculous. And Sunderland fans always hang on to that moment, even though, and Derby days are special. I think Newcastle Sunderland, because working class city, they breathe, they eat, they sleep football. And I think them derbies are unique. As a fan, they're unique. They're horrible to watch, the nerves. As a referee, it was interesting. I always found derbies was, even the latter part of it was strange. And I think you looked at the Manchester derby, the North London derby, Arsenal, Tottenham. I found, yes, the fans wanted the derbies, but the players were all friends. I remember being in tunnels and they're kissing and cuddling each other. They're all neighbours. Wow. They're all friends. And I never had that rivalry. And I've said this many times before. The derby that I used to look forward to was always Liverpool, Manchester United. Because of, the history, but the players would not speak to each other in the tunnel. They wouldn't speak when they handed the team exchange. There was just no love lost between both sets of players, which, moved on to the England when everybody talked about when England played, there was no friendships, there was no, team spirit. And when them derbies happened, they were ferocious. They were
what was the best one?
They were hard.
What was the best one to referee then? What was the best atmosphere?
I always found the one I refereed, and I would love to have done the Old Firm game. That was always my dream. But I loved refereeing Birmingham Villa. Birmingham Villa was incredible matches, incredible. But I always found, and this is controversial, but I like being controversial, there's some derbies I always find better at certain places. Like I think Birmingham, it's better to referee to Birmingham than Aston Villa. Atmosphere slightly different. I think maybe the slightly, I wouldn't say smaller clubs, but the clubs that haven't been as successful, it always seems to be like Everton, Liverpool was always harder Everton than it would be at Liverpool. I think Manchester City at the time was harder to referee at Man City than Man United. I think it was slightly different Man United, Man City. Same with Tottenham. Arsenal, Tottenham wasn't the same as Tottenham, Arsenal. So it seemed to be this, like the certain grounds as well created that. But from a football point of view, you're right. Football's changed so much. There's no such thing as tackling anymore. I think the asset of the player so much that they don't want the player injured, and the laws have changed so much where tackling's become, very rare. I think players stay on the feet more, and I think the game's changed so much. But I love a tackle, and I love seeing a tackle. And I think when you go to the derby, I remember Cattermole, and I was at St James's Park. Cattermole waited for the first 30 seconds, and he just kicked a player from Newcastle and put him in the air, and everybody was like, wow, it's a derby game. You don't see that first marker now where the first kick of the game, I'm going to wipe him out in a derby. Knowing you might get a yellow card, but so what? It sets the mark and it gets the crowd going. And that's the most important thing. But I'm looking forward to the derbies as much as everybody else because, you know, people have missed, especially the Newcastle-Sunderland derby for many, many years. It's important to have them derbies like, you know, Tottenham-Chelsea, for example, is there. You know, everybody wants to have that North London derby, but as a fan, they're brilliant to watch, but they're nervous because you want your team to win.
Yeah, since I've been to quite a few English derbies. I went to City United and I was quite shocked at how sensible it was, you know, because as a Hibs fan, like Hibs away at Tynecastle was a brilliant experience. You should, if you get a chance, boys, go. It's brilliant. And also the derby at Easter Road special and the sort of march to Tynecastle underneath the railway bridges with the flares going and the drums banging and Hibs away. Aha. Yeah, that's going to be good this season. Yeah. But, you know, the one thing I would say is that last March, I ended up on a family holiday at Centre Parks and they had to get extra security in because there was an Old Firm derby on 500 miles away, right? Really? So there's so many Scottish people there. And the atmosphere watching it in the pub at Centre Parks with 200 Scottish people, it was, I mean, I actually thought we better leave because this is going to end up with tables being chucked around and all the rest of it.
Suddenly bring the plastic glasses out at Centre Parks rather than glass.
It doesn't matter where you are in the world, right? And there's an Old Firm game going on. You have to think twice about where you watch it because it's going to get
100%. You know, 100%. I remember I was in a bar in Tenerife years and years ago, and I was watching the Old Firm game, and I said to the guy, he was a Scottish guy, and he was a Celtic fan, and I said, "Oh, I hope the game gets a goal." He went, "You don't." I said, "No, I hope the game gets a goal." And they scored. Rangers scored within a minute, and the bar just went up. Within he says, "I told you so." We didn't want anybody to score. You know, it was like incredible that the bar just turned upside down because a goal was scored in an Old Firm game. Incredible.
Greatest derby on the planet, Rory, as a football aficionado?
No, I've thought of this so many times, and I think the answer is, like, you can pay an honourable mention to many. Like, you can talk about various derbies and pay them the respect they deserve. But the answer is Rangers Celtic. Right, okay. Like, that is the answer.
Not the North London derbies.
No, it's soft. It's flat. It is flat compared to what it should be. Like, you know, we can, and then I think people like to be a bit hipster, don't they? And they start talking about, I don't know, when Boca Juniors play River Plate or whatever. But I don't know about that. But from my life, from what I've experienced, from my understanding of football, there is nothing like what happens in Glasgow on a derby day.
Tremendous. So, Susan, I hope that answers your question. And the answer from Mark Clattenburg was Birmingham Villa to referee.
That's a good one. I remember seeing years and years ago there was a pitch invasion after the game. I think Birmingham had beaten Villa. This is at St Andrews, and the Birmingham fans were firing fireworks into the away end from the pitch. Yeah. You know, when do you remember there was that Enkelman? Do you remember that moment with Enkelman at Villa Park? Yeah. When a good fella ran on the pitch,
got attacked on stage. That was Birmingham, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was at Birmingham.
It is a big derby, that's for sure.
How difficult is that to referee, by the way, Mark? When there is a fan on the pitch and that stuff sort of takes over.
Mad, but the thing is, pitch invasion. I remember one in the north, just straight at my head, that was North London derby. This is how stupid people are. I remember giving a free kick on the touchline, and Arsenal tried to take a quick free kick. It was at White Hart Lane, and I had to stop it because somebody shouts, "There's a fan on the pitch." So I stopped the game. So Arsenal stopped the quick free kick. So fan gets pulled off. He gets booed, of course. So what Arsenal do, decide not to take the quick free kick. They put it into the penalty area, and Van Persie scores. And I'm thinking that fan's just cost the Tottenham a goal, because if it wasn't for him, Arsenal wouldn't have put it in the penalty area, and Van Persie might not have scored.
Like the Liverpool fan who got the beach ball on the pitch for Darren Bent at Sunderland. Yeah.
Right, before we get back into football chat, we're in partnership with Wix Trade Pro, and honestly, if you're a tradesperson listening, this is one you want to hear.
Aye, because Wix Trade Pro is here to save you time and money. Save 10% every time you shop in-store or online. No minimum spend, no faff, just proper savings.
Wix know that tool theft can have a devastating impact on you, your life and your livelihood. And since prevention is always better than a cure, let's start there. They've just launched something genuinely smart with Deter Tech. It's called Smart Water, award-winning forensic marking technology that helps combat tool theft. Basically, mark your gear and it becomes traceable and recoverable if it's ever nicked.
Amazing. Anyway, 3 steps. 1, mark your tools with the applicator and solution. 2, stick the deterrent signage up. And 3, register it so anything nicked can be identified.
Simple, effective, and gives you peace of mind, which is more than Mark ever gave Premier League managers.
Unbelievable. Download the Wix Trade Pro app to sign up today.
And I don't understand, and this is what confuses a lot of people, how the same handball can be treated differently between a defender and an attacking player. So an attacking player, a ball hits the arm and he scores, he does a bit of skill and then shoots and scores, is different to a defender. The defender wouldn't be given as a penalty kick. So the forwards penalised, but the defender's not. And I think for me, on handball, it just confuses more and more people. And somebody argued to me, and I remember having a conversation with a Chelsea fan on a train, and he said, let's just give every time the ball touches the arm a penalty kick. And you're thinking, well, that's just ludicrous, because how many times does a ball accidentally touch somebody's arm in a penalty area? And you even get players, and I've saw it myself when I was refereeing, players used to go and deliberately try to hit the arm when they were crossing because they knew they had the chance of the penalty kick. So with that in mind, I just can't ever see a solution ever found on handball.
Mark, you are, without this podcast, we wouldn't have a podcast, right? I mean, we certainly have to change the name for a start, okay? So you are obviously a fundamental part of this rather undignified
It would just be called Blowers without him.
Yeah. But I do a good blow.
Can I just say something? You're the referee, mate, okay? So this listener has just asked a very, very valid question. How do we sort out handball?
You can't. I
feel depressed. I feel depressed listening to. Listen,
but I'm trying to. What I'm trying to do, Ian, is I'm trying to give some people, because people have always got different ideas and say, wait, every time the ball touches the arm, it should be a penalty kick. Yeah. What I'm trying to say is, I understand the fans' frustration. Yeah. But the referees,
you can't just say we can't solve it.
Well, you can't. Well, how can you? Well, how can you? How can you? Well, because what your argument is, you can never solve it, Ian, because, and I know you'll have that argument, referees have criteria. They follow directives at the start of the season, and in the Premier League or the PGMOL will say, look, this is what we believe is a handball. What is handball in England is different to Spain, is different to UEFA competition. So it's different around different parts of the world, and nobody has found a solution yet because, for example, I can move my arm slightly away from my body. It can be punished 1 week. And another referee will say, I don't think that's making his body bigger. Therefore, I'm not going to penalise it. So where do you find a solution? How far away from the body?
Thing, okay? Go for it, Ian. The first thing, uniformity and consistency.
You can't get that. You can't get that. You can't get that. You can't find that in refereeing. You're not in a perfect world. You can't. You can aim for it, and that's what they do by bringing this criteria.
Uniformity, consistency across leagues and across competitions. That's the first thing. Okay. IFAB are there for a reason, or they're supposed to be, International Football Association board who make the laws of the game. There's the first thing. Secondly, you say to me, you've just outlined there how complicated this thing, unwittingly, you've just outlined how complicated and ridiculous a very basic law of the game has become, that you can't use your hand to control the football, okay? It's a very basic concept and it's become complicated and it's been made complicated by the lawmakers, okay? Now you say it's impossible to make that decision about whether handball is deliberate. I'm sorry, mate, but that's your job. There's lots of things in your job or your old job that were down to your interpretation of events, because when two human beings come together on a football pitch, it's not definitive, it's not always factual, it's not linear, it's not scientific, it's down to referees' judgment. That's what you're there for. Referees should be allowed to make judgments on handball, but they should be allowed to make judgments within very, very set criteria. And that's why I've said this to you before, Gordon, I think you agreed on the previous show, go back to what we knew as kids as handball. Okay, we knew what handball was when we were kids. It was if somebody stuck their arm out deliberately, in inverted commas, to touch the football. And it's up to the referee to decide, in his opinion, whether it was deliberate. Sometimes he might be right, sometimes he might be wrong. That's no different to any other judgment call you make on a foul or anything like that. Get it back to basics. Take all this bollocks out about unnatural positions, all the rest of it. Yeah. Take it back to the basics.
Probably.
Yeah.
I've actually got a good story about the presidential suite of the Balmoral in Edinburgh.
I've been there, yeah.
It's a really good story. Do you want to hear it?
Go on then.
I'll tell you the story. So 2008, Kasabian played Princes Street Gardens in Edinburgh, right? So we all went up to have a massive party. And an old pal of mine happened to be working on reception at the Balmoral, which is the amazing hotel in the centre of town.
Is that the one next to the train station?
Right next to the train station, amazing hotel. And she said, look, Gordon, there's a Japanese businessman who had the presidential suite booked, but his flight's not going to make it. So the room's free. Do you want an upgrade?
Yeah, go on then.
Yeah.
Go on then. So by upgrade, I'm talking, corner suite. It had a study in it, with a beautiful big mahogany table, a view of Princes Street, a view of Princes Street Gardens, a view down to the other direction. I mean, it was incredible. This beautiful building, huge bay windows, all the rest of it. So we go to the gig and Noel Gallagher comes on stage, plays with Kasabian. Anyway, everyone piles back into our suite. We have a massive party and they had swords and shields on the wall. So they've all come off having sword fights. There's girls dancing on the table, all the rest of that. It was... old school wild shenanigans.
Does Mrs. Smart listen to this
She
podcast?
was here. She was there.
Oh,
she
fair
was,
enough.
She was one of the women dancing on the table.
Was she Mrs. Smart at the time?
She was Mrs.
Oh,
Smart
okay.
at the time. Yeah, she was Mrs. Smart at the time.
Class.
So we all piled back, have a massive party. The tidy up operation was quite stressful, as you can imagine, right? So trying to get the place in order, re-hanging, chainmail suits on the wall and all the rest of it. Anyway, tidy up. 2 days later, I get a phone call from that girl saying, "You've really let me down. And I'm afraid I've got some bad news for you." I said, "What's that?" She said, "There's a French polishing bill that's going to give you a bit of a fright." And I was like, "What for?" She went, "Winston Churchill's war cabinet table." I was like, "What?" Apparently Winston Churchill's table from the Second World War was in the study. And that was the table the girls were dancing on and all these little high heel marks on it. It's like that Yellow Pages advert, wasn't it? I won't say how much it was, but let's just say I had to go in and see the editor. I'm sure you've had to do this a few times, Ian, and say, "I've got a bill. I can't afford it.
I might need some help with it."
I might need a bit of help with this. It's a month's salary." That was on decent dough at the time, Mark. And she paid it because we got some good stories out of
And
it.
who's the fool there? The guy from The Sun who goes in and does what the guy from The Sun was always going to do, or the girl who gave the presidential suite to the guy from The Sun in the first place?
One of the best hogmanies of my entire life.
We were told by PGMOL at the start of the season that there would have to be a high bar for intervention, and that's not a high bar for intervention. They should just have left the decision
100%.
as it was. Clear and obvious, high bar, whatever phrase you want to use. And we're already only 6 games into the Premier League season, and we're already at that point where VAR are getting involved in things that they don't
But the only
need
going,
to get
Ian,
involved.
the only going
specifics of it, yeah.
is that I've been head of refereeing in different countries, and I get what Howard Webb's doing. He can't every week keep coming out and apologising, which he's done with Fulham recently. Yeah. I get his arguments thinking, probably internally he's thinking, that should have just stayed on the field internally, but externally he's coming out to defend his referees, which I accept. But it's creating more problems because now he's got this video, which he does with Sky every once a month, Michael Owen. It's creating issues because what he's trying to do, he's premeditating the decisions, the ones that he wants. Because if you look at this weekend's actions, I can make 2 or 3 cases of other situations which he didn't discuss.
I was against that programme from the start simply because I'm a bit old school. I'm of the view of once decisions have been made, right or wrong, you move on for them. And to use old-fashioned newspaper parlance, Gordon, all this show does is gives a story new legs. So we're sitting here on a Thursday. That game took place on... Wednesday today. you were listening to this on a Thursday. That game took place on a Sunday. That should be a 24-hour news story, and then you move on. And then Howard Webb goes on the telly and breathes a whole new lot of life into it, and therefore just turns the wheel, increases the pressure on his own referees, the people he's supposed to be protecting. Let the decision stand, debate it for a couple of hours, move on.
With that in mind, why is Howard Webb doing it? Do you think that's
Transparency. He always came in, Howard, because Mike Riley wasn't.
Right.
So all, people in the media were upset with Mike because he wasn't open and not honest, but he wasn't open.
Yeah.
What Howard's done, which he did in the MLS, he opened up everything. So he wants to say, look, this is how we're doing it. This is why we're doing it. And he wanted to reveal the audios.
He's becoming the story a little bit though, isn't he? Do you think, Ian?
Mark?
What do you think about Howard Webb here?
I can understand why he's trying to do it, but like Ian said, he's opening up more cans of worms weeks later.
Do you like him?
Howard? I wouldn't say I'm friends with him. I respect him, but I certainly wouldn't. I think Howard has his own agendas a lot. And
what are they?
But he's had agendas for years. I worked with him in the Euro in 2012, and you see different sides to people where just small little things. Where I remember I was the additional behind the goal with Martin Atkinson, Howard Webb, and his 2 assistants. And after the match, we'd all arranged to go into one of the rooms, have a few beers like we always did. After every international match, we'd always stay together, have a few beers. Some would go to bed after 1 or 2 beers. Some would stay and have more beers. But this night, they all disappeared. And then the next day, I'm saying, wait, what happened? Oh, we went to bed early. And then, you know that the line, because it went out to a party. And I thought to myself, hold on, I've just give you one of your best decisions because you were about to give a penalty to Croatia against Italy. And I shouted, no penalty, no penalty. The attacker had fouled the defender first, which he didn't see because he was ball watching, which referees normally do. And I think that's how you treat people. So you can't have it both ways. So I respect him for what he's done as a referee and management, but as a person, I can't respect the man. So
has he ever reached out to you to? Because you two are probably the 2 most high profile. Well, you are the 2 most high profile referees, ex-referees in the country. You and Howard Webb are probably, I don't want to use the word famous, but are probably more recognisable than any referee currently refereeing today.
He was gutted he didn't get gladiators.
I think Howard's problem sometimes is what he doesn't want anybody to be as successful as him. In all, like when I met him when I was working for Nottingham Forest, for example, the conversations were, what's your salary? Sorry? It shouldn't be about the salary, because he was always complaining to me in the couple of days that I was like around him that he wasn't well paid enough for PG. Well, that's not my problem. That you took the decision to go and be employed. I've took my decisions to do other things. But when I met him, when I was working for Nottingham Forest, my role was also to help him, because Nottingham Forest were being public in their statements. And after I got employed, it was interesting that the statements had reduced and weren't as only the Everton one, which I think was the catalyst, but there was always this resistance from people within PGM World that an ex-referee could work at a football club, and I think it created a bit of animosity between the two of us.
Just from my point of view, quickly, I think his motives are pretty admirable for the TV stuff, the transparency stuff. He wants referees and the decisions to be open. I just don't think it serves referees to have their decisions constantly analysed.
The simplest thing is nothing should be done on TV. He should be getting these guys in every week or every 2 weeks and going through the decision. I'm getting told off referees. He's not doing that with referees.
Yeah.
I'm hearing that they're not going through the consistency side. One of the things I've always done with my referees when I was head of referees, you want to get as much data into them as you can, so much video. So what's plugged into them, when they see something similar, immediately the referee in VAR are tuned in and go, well, that's what the management want. That's what the management thinks a handball. That's what the management thinks a foul. I don't see it, because week in, week out, what we're seeing, what you've just said, 1 week a goalkeeper's punished, the next it's not.
The problem is, if you're the referee from Sunday's game, and I must admit I can't remember who it was now.
Jared Geely from next Australian.
So if you're him, you will come out of that game, you think, right, I know what's going to come for the next 24 hours. It's going to be a lot of analysis of what I did. And then you think, oh, great. Just when it dies down, Howard's then going on the telly and talk about it again.
But Mark, he's got 3 games in Europe. He's a VAR in Europe.
Is there a conversation between that point then? Will Howard Webb have had a conversation before he went on the telly this week? Because that would strike me as a sensible and reasonable.
Well, he would have. I'm sure he would have. If he's got, which I know Howard's got good management skills, I'm sure Howard would have spoken to Jared. He's going to support him.
And that leaves us with one thing to do. I'm not putting any money on it. Did you remember your whistle, Mr. Clattenburg?
No, I've lost it.
He's lost his
Left
whistle.
it on the plane.
I've lost it.
But would you mind improvising, please, and blow the full-time whistle? Thank you very much for watching Whistleblowers. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Remember, episodes every Thursday and Tuesday. And on a Sunday, you'll get our clip of the week.